little bit of color from them about what makes this important. And Jack, the fact that you mentioned the Big Boss Man theme song is really interesting. And I quote, "I was not aware that there were other human beings that walked around their homes singing inaccurate lyrics to professional grapplers' theme songs from 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. He carries a fish stick indeed. This was electric to discover. The more obscure the similarities that you find with someone, the deeper the connection is." This is another. "That is the heart of the lapsed fan. We are obscure, shameful beings with deeply rooted ties."
Shame and pain, baby. Shame and pain.
There it is. I spent much of my youth thinking nobody thought about little odd wrestling details like I did. Things that, like, how do you make figs work matches? Or things like how ridiculous the guitar sounds on Gangrel's theme. Then I discovered the co-chairs. Then I discovered the solar system. And I see I am mistaken. 30 years of jokes I have only been able to share with myself, and now there's a whole solar system. So for the uninitiated, solar system is the way that they refer to their universe, because the solar system is bigger than a universe.
Well, it
or
also
smaller than a universe, but whatever. Smaller,
and it revolves all around us.
I never thought of that before. That's absolutely true.
That's exactly the way.
No wonder you suggested it.
Uh-huh.
But I guess my point here is that it's really interesting finding like-minded people in places you don't expect to find them. Podcasts, especially professional wrestling podcasts, suck for the most part. Especially, you have so many podcasts out there, especially wrestling podcasts, that are very much just two guys talking about old wrestling or watching old wrestling.
Yeah.
The way that you guys have differentiated yourselves in many different ways is pretty outstanding. And Jack, you touched on this about the emails that are read on the program, and how so many people can relate to that shame and that pain. But I want to talk a little bit before we move on about the idea of it used to be better, because I think that fits in with our age group as well. I would imagine that if you were to poll certainly the folks on Patreon, that they all fall within a 10 to 15 year age range, 15 on the high end. I would bet that that's the case. I don't know what the stats look like, but that's my guess.
It's funny you bring this up because sometimes I sit there and I do wonder, wrestling was better. Totally agree with that. And I sit and think, what else was there? And we talk a lot about toys and toy stores and stuff like that. And I don't know, like the last week or two, we have a Discord for a certain tier of pledge on Patreon, and someone posted these pictures on one of the chat threads that we have, and someone posted pictures of what I am going to presume is a Toys R Us toy store, and it literally has an entire aisle lined with G.I. Joes and another one, Star Wars figures, just completely, like the whole aisle, not just a little section devoted to a couple things, but the whole aisle with every single figure. And I was like, that's, I sit there and I take my kid to go get toys, stuff like that. I'm like, oh God, they got these little sections. Like, I always thought they were bigger. And I begin to doubt myself. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just in my mind because I was small and I was looking at toys, whatever. But then I see this and I'm like, yeah, it was bigger. You had aisles and aisles of like just one, I don't want to say genre. I want to say, I don't know, one type of toy.
A category. Yeah.
A category or, and it just was like, that's when it was fun to be able to go into a Toys R Us to search for a toy, and you had all these options. Now you go to a place and it's like, they don't, my kid doesn't have nearly as many options as I did.
Yeah. The thrill of discovery is gone.
Yes.
You guys talk. Yeah. Go ahead.
And we're so desperate to replicate it that we always act like we're finding new things to be quote unquote obsessed over, and they're over in 15 minutes.
Right.
Binge culture and all this nonsense. I mean,
even TV shows. You bring a point there. Even TV shows like Netflix, creates this culture of binge watching where all the episodes are available right then and there, and there is no suspense of waiting a week to watch the next episode.
You're either obsessed or you don't care. That's our modern condition, and that's a losing proposition in terms of now.
Yeah, I mean, not to cut you off, but now you have some streaming services recognizing that, trying to go back to the old way, and our brains have changed so much in the last 5 or 10 years that we can't handle a 7-day wait between one episode and the next of something like WandaVision without the entire world just losing their minds. Like, this sucks. Why should I have to wait for this? This is a crappy show after 2 episodes. And then they wait, and episode 4 or episode 5 drop, and the whole world changes.
Remember Tiger King?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Tiger King?
I never saw it.
Where'd it go? It was all anybody could talk about. I remember when all anything could, something that everyone was talking about lasted 5 years and paid the people involved in the enterprise a wage that allowed them to live off of the merit of what they've created. And that the interest someone showed in something was drawn out over time to extract value, to extract life-affirming qualities. And now it's like, 15 minutes of fame, I say this all the time, is now 15 seconds of fame, and we're the worse off for it. So how can you say it didn't used to be better when your fondest childhood memories cannot be replicated for your children?
Well, see, and it's an interesting juxtaposition. I'm glad you mentioned that, because you see, the things that you used to love. You know that you loved going to the video store and walking in and smelling the stale popcorn and the dirty carpet and staring up at the and flipping the tapes around, and you can feel that, you can taste it, you can smell it.
And the billboards for the recently released VHS tapes.
Of course.
And we're talking about something so prosaic, so simple. You go home, you watch the movie, and that's it. How exciting can it be? Well, here we are still talking about it.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is that's completely changed. It doesn't exist anymore. There's no, and I don't know that there's any going back. But at the same time, at the fore of all marketing right now is nostalgia, right? It's the most popular thing to talk about. It's the most popular thing to include in your commercial. Just last night on the Super Bowl, I'm dating when we're recording this episode, but there's a Pizza Hut commercial where the guy from The Office, Daryl from The Office, I forget his name.
Craig
Robinson. Yes. Craig Robinson is sitting at a Pac-Man machine, the dual Pac-Man machine that your local Pizza Hut had at the store when you were a kid, going for your book it free personal pan pizza because you read 5 books.
Did you notice his outfit too?
No, I didn't.
His outfit was the design of the checker design of the tables, what they used to be.
There you go. Right, he's in the Pizza Hut. The lamps are the nostalgic, very kind of Tiffany-esque lamps over each table. Right now, you can't eat in a restaurant right now. So who are they selling to, and what are they selling? Are they selling pizza, or are they selling the experience of me as an 8-year-old going to Pizza Hut and playing bad dudes, and then getting my personal pan pizza with my mom?
We have to ask ourselves, are they selling that because it's laughable that it used to be better, or does that serve as confirmation? It serves as confirmation. Every reboot serves as confirmation. The fact that every toy line that was on the shelves when I was a kid is pretty much on the shelves today due to lack of ability.
Not in quantity.
What's that?
Except not in quantity.
Not in quantity, exactly. This false scarcity that goes on. And, the fact that every goddamn commercial now has like the play from the old VHSs, the PLAY in white letters in the top right-hand corner. They're literally superimposing the distortion of a VHS tape on footage now to make it look more interesting. if I have to see another documentary that actually tries to make footage look like it was 15 years ago, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. This obsession, like the true crime obsession with like tape, like finding things that just visually put you in a certain time period. It's always the same time period, isn't it? I mean, it's always not too far away that it's foreign. Not a whole lot of documentaries being done about the 50s these days. It's all about the 90s. I wonder why. I wonder if it's because we might have had the right calibration back then. People weren't at each other's throats back then. People were allowed to change their minds back then. People didn't consider their position on any issue a sport, a position to defend, something that animates your day, something that gives you a reason to get up in the morning to fight with somebody. You didn't have the forum to do that, and so it didn't even become part of your DNA to want to fight. You didn't allow social media tools to do that to you because they didn't exist. And I just think, the transformation that's happened as a result of that ability to seek out conflict, right? To seek out conflict has made it such that we only get a charge off something where there's like an immediate, instant, snap judgment gratification to something. Our minds are now trained to not care unless something gives us immediate pop back. And what was happening, we were popping back throughout the 90s in our brains. We didn't know it until 20 years later when we remember things with such resonance and specificity and warmth. We don't remember. I mean, I'm sure if we suffer traumas, we remember those, but we tend to remember a lot of warm things, don't we? And I wonder how you're going to remember anything warm when your teenage years were characterized by looking at your phone and not what happened in front of your face or even on the television. I mean, things you had to seek out, things you had to wait for, appointment viewing, appointment shopping, right? Things that you did it now or you didn't get to do it.
It's interesting. I often find myself, even as not a teenager, finding like this kind of disgust with myself for being buried in my phone because of the way that everything has gone. And it's just your brain becomes trained to a certain way of doing things. And all
people,
of a sudden,
if people read into this commentary, the suggestion that we are proffering a solution to this problem, they couldn't be more wrong. We are saying we are beyond repair, and that's the starting point of the discussion.
And we will capitalize on that.
That's right.
Beyond repair.
Right.
And that's just it, right? Like from a strategic standpoint, even if it's not conscious strategy, the fact of the matter is that your target audience, including myself, so I don't want to make anybody feel like I'm attacking them, but we are toy-obsessed man-children that have disposable income.
That's right.
I'm in my mid to late 30s.
It's so fucking true.
I'm in my mid to late 30s. I'm doing well financially, thank goodness. And the first 2 months of this pandemic, do you know how much money I spent on Hasbro's?
And look what's happened to the baseball card market during the pandemic. Skyrocket. Yep. The value of your old cards have skyrocketed.
That's really?
Oh, yeah, because people are turning inward and they're remembering what they gave them a charge. And goddamn, if all those things didn't come before smartphones.
Oh, shit, I better get on that. I got so many. I found all my baseball cards.
Oh, yeah.
Get in there, pal. Get in there. Yeah, you're going to be very surprised. And that leads us to another piece of this thing. And I'm really looking forward, Jack, because, I've watched a lot of, I've heard a lot of audio from you on other podcasts, including Lapsed Fan, a lot of some video as well, as a matter of fact. But a big part of your success on the show, I like to believe, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, is because of your use and manipulation of language. For the uninitiated, wrestling itself has a kind of vernacular to it that is outside the norm of how regular people talk to each other.
Right.
But above and beyond that, the show itself has a lexicon. Clubs have secret handshakes. Mm-hmm. TLF has a lexicon. I maybe talk a little bit about the psychological